Welcome to Cross the Line Sports. My name is Carlos Smith, and we are back again with another edition of the WNBA Talk with Miss Nicole Oltz. Nicole, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm excited. Excited about some of these topics we're gonna discuss. And it's good to just, like I said, been talking about the WNBA, following it and covering the games and seeing these young ladies' talent, put their skill sets on display. It's very exciting for me. One I know. We talked about this earlier, and I'm gonna give you another hot take, but I said I was gonna go ahead and admit this. I'm off the bandwagon for Dallas. I'm done with them. Yeah,
All right.
yeah, I'm done. It's over with for me.
That's a wrap, huh? That's it.
Yeah, it just to me, and I really had them making the playoffs this year. But when
Sure.
I
A
look at
lot of people did.
the team, and then just the talent that's around the league is I just feel like it's too much of a hole that you dug for yourself already.
There
To
is so much clarity this season.
it
I love it.
is. And
But it's, yeah, it's flooding.
and, and to be 1-11 already in the season, I don't see how you can come back, especially with the teams that's in front of you. You dead last
Mhm.
in the standings. I'm done with Dallas, and I hate to say it because I really thought, getting Enrique some help, they was gonna make the playoff. But that's just one of my hot takes. But I just had to go ahead, and I know we talked about it earlier off air, but I'm
Yeah.
done with Dallas. Sorry to say it.
No man bun and friends. Done
Yeah,
with them,
so
huh?
it's it is over. But that's a
It's
great
tough.
way to,
I do think that a lot of people would have agreed with you at the beginning of the season.
hmm
Like, I mean, people were, we kind of saw the writing on the wall anyway that, Dallas was going to pick Paige and
Yeah.
they were supposed to ride off into the sunset with the squad that they had acquired in the offseason and, be a playoff contender right away. But
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I didn't think they were gonna just like be just a automatic championship contender where they were gonna be like one of the top 4 or 5 teams in the league. But I thought they would at least be 6 through 8, somewhere in there.
in Indiana last year, kind of like squeak.
Exactly.
And
And to only have one win and I was okay, Asia's out tonight. You got to try to take advantage of this game. And for a while they had the lead.
they hung in there for a little bit.
They did. But I don't think they like the coaching. It's a lot of stuff. So
Yeah,
I'm done. I'm done
Farmington
with
does
that.
not have the coaching.
Exactly. Yes. So I'm done with Dallas. Did you see them being this bad though? Like, did you even have them making the playoffs? Like, just find a way to get in?
Yeah, I could definitely see them have making the playoffs. Um, it's tough though. I think like hindsight's always 2020, but
hmm
I think people just saw like, oh, Enrique's finally going to have some help, and everybody is pretty much in agreement of how great she of a player she is.
hmm
But they are like, and some of it's just chemistry and time. And I think some of it is an adjustment, and I don't know if the coach is making it. So how I see it now in hindsight is, I mean, Paige is the point guard. Like
hmm
she has pretty much like that is her job on that team. And that is not something that we saw with their team previously.
Right.
Enrique out the ball, and rightfully so. Like she was
hmm
always the best player on the court.
Yeah.
Sometimes for both teams. And like we're seeing games now where there's 20 plus, plays in multiple games now where she hasn't even touched the ball.
hmm
And if she's not touching the ball out, if you just like freeze frame, she's just standing there.
Right.
There's not enough movement on that team to begin with. And I think they're like 10th in the league or something in assists and ball movement. Like they're just atrocious right now, truthfully,
Right.
you know?
And then,
Um,
oh, I was gonna say, and then with Dejanay, she's not really an offensive threat like that. So
no, like they're asking her to be this year. But if you think about what her job was in Connecticut, it was mostly defense.
defense, exactly.
Yeah, like you're asking players that have meaningful roles on this team to do things that they haven't done yet up to this point. Like Arike hasn't been a role player.
Nope.
Like you're asking her to be a 1A or a 1B now, you know? Like if she doesn't have the ball in her hands, she really, I don't want to say she doesn't know what to do because she's a great player, but it's unfamiliar territory for her right now, maybe
Hmm.
in the W. This is probably the first time in her entire, existed college pros that she's been in this position. And I don't think that the coach really knows what to do with her either, unfortunately.
Yeah, and it's a tough adjustment for everybody because, like I said, I remember like last year the numbers she was putting up. She really didn't have an option because she was just clearly like the
Well,
number one option, and not a lot of players around her. Then they had a lot of injuries last year too, so it was like she really had to make every play.
sure. Yeah. Enrique's never been the most efficient
Right.
player, but volume was, you know, what we saw from her. And she just doesn't have the volume right now. So they're not getting the production that we're used to seeing from a player like Enrique. So, like
Yeah.
she also can't make those plays. The ball's not in her hand. So,
Right. And I know if you're Dallas, you don't want to get in a situation where you have to keep one and trade the other player just for the fit.
yeah.
I think it's too soon for that, but maybe it is like the coaching not fitting their style and everything that they need because I just don't see how you can be this bad and struggle. And Chicago, the two wins Chicago had, they beat Dallas both times
Yeah.
already. So it's like to me, that's already a red flag, right? They're not saying that Chicago doesn't have talent. They all have talent, but that's one of those teams. Chicago is another team that I don't see going anywhere. And to lose to them twice and just the way that they just look, it just I was like I can't buy into them like I did at the beginning.
Sure. I would say that Dallas is more talented. They should be significantly better than they are. They definitely honestly should.
Exactly.
Then I think Chicago should be better than they are too with the coach they have. I would say Marsh is a better coach than, what Dallas has. But
Yeah, they so it's that was just one of my takes. I got another one. But I'm gonna let you go ahead and get yours off. Go ahead and fire off on us.
with I think when we were talking, it was that Enrique and Paige aren't playing very well
Mhm.
together. So, we already kind of have touched
Right.
on that. I mean, if Enrique's not going down the court with the ball in her hand, then she's waiting for the ball to be in her hand. That's been her
Right.
job. And I don't like they haven't had an off season. Again, this is early. There's no like Paige has been hurt this season.
Hmm.
They just they haven't had the time to build the chemistry truly. But I still think that they should be further along than they are now, almost based off pure talent. But I could be wrong there.
So what would you do in this situation? I mean, of course, it's way too early to make any type of moves, but would you try to break that up and move one of them? Do you eventually see how the season plays out and move the coach? Like, what would you do in this type of situation?
I well, the coach definitely is an issue right now. He doesn't have the locker room. We've already started seeing that spill out of the locker room onto the court. I mean, him and Carrington kind of got into it in the last game. I mean, Carrington is a professional. I will say that. I know that she's had some, like people talk about her attitude every now and then. I also don't know how much, and every couple is not the same, but there is a lot of chatter about she hasn't been the same since she started playing with Melissa Smith. They weren't on the same team last year.
Interesting.
That's an off the court
Mm.
through line
It
there.
that
I,
could be something too. That's interesting. Yeah.
if we're talking about trades and cutting players, and I don't know what's going on, but he does not have that locker room. That is for sure. There's been a mismanagement. There's also, I mean, he is partially in that role because of his relationship with the GM too.
That's usually how it goes in business.
Yeah.
That's who you
Yeah. I
know.
mean, not that I mean, they didn't like necessarily pull him off the street and plug him in there, but he definitely had a networking advantage, if you will, to that role. And maybe he just isn't ready for it. I mean, not everybody's supposed to be a head coach.
Right.
Um, and so he might be a really good assistant coach or somebody to have on your, staff on a basketball club, but maybe he's not ready for the head coach role, or maybe this isn't a fit for him. But I definitely do think to mismanage players of that talent, regardless of whether it's the front office or the coach itself, is I mean just unexcusable, really.
Yeah, to me, I was like, they're just too good to be this
Yes.
bad that early. To only have one win in 12 games, you only win one game.
Yeah.
That's
I
that's
mean, I'll compare like a Connecticut. I don't want to like rag on Chicago all the time. Connecticut lost five starters. They still have talent.
exactly.
They lost all five starters and they're completely starting over. Arguably the best player on that team is Mabry.
Oh yeah.
And Mabry's not an Enrique. She's a phenomenal player, but she's not an Enrique.
Right.
So like that's that is who we're comparing. That's like a league comparison here. Like they are not in two of the same places in their development, but they're getting the same results.
Exactly. Yeah. So they I think I would ride it out with them a little bit longer. They
Oh
definitely got
yeah.
to let them finish out this year, and I just don't
Like
think you
what do you
can.
give for Enrique though? Like what does the team give up for Enrique?
Man, I need.
Because I imagine that that's who they would move at this point.
They probably would. Man, I don't know. That's a tough question. Man, had that been me, honestly, and we're gonna talk about it again in a little bit. Had that been me, I would have thought about, I don't know. You got to get a lot back for Enrique. I needed some first round picks for Enrique, and I need a legit score, another score that's gonna help fill that void. But I don't see too many teams that want to give up on, if you have an elite score, I don't see too many teams that will want to, give up on them. But you got to get at least a couple first round picks to for Enrique because she's too talented to and she's still young to give up on her. And I like you said, I don't see them giving up on Paige.
No.
But this
Well, with that new CBA coming out, they're gonna have to pay Enrique
mhm,
sooner than I have to pay Paige, and it just might be a numbers game.
yeah. I just probably just have to figure it out. Figure it out.
Again, this is perhaps an overreaction, way too early.
Yeah. But I don't think it's an overreaction to say they're not gonna make the playoffs though.
Oh, no, no, no.
Yeah,
That
that,
ship
that's
is
Yeah,
sailed.
that's over with. But speaking of playoffs, I'll give you another hot take. There was and I kind of think I might have alluded to it before, but and I mentioned in one of my previous interviews I had with my friend Nick Hamilton. But I was saying that I'm still a believer. I think the Sparks are gonna make the playoffs.
Sure.
To me, I think they're right on the cusp. Like if it started today, they wouldn't make it. But when I just look at the talent that they have, I think they have one of the deeper teams when you talk about Kelsey Plum and Azare and you got Hamby and then Rakia who just exploded the other night. She had a big
Yeah.
game. Um, I like Sarah Ashley Barker. I like the young Odyssey Sims. Like I think they have a good team, and I know they're missing Ray Burrell, but I think they got a team. When I
Missing
look
Brink.
at them, they they can make some noise. Like I said, I think they can make the play. I think they're gonna make the playoffs. And then, like you said, Cameron Brink too. So I think she's gonna be the key to all of it as well. So when I look at their roster, top to bottom, I think they have one of the deeper teams. They just got to figure out how to put it all together.
Sure. Yeah, the talent's there. And I also see with them, we're talking about, I wouldn't use the word struggle like I would some of the teams we just talked about. But I know in the past, like when we talked about a Chicago, we're like, they don't have an identity. I think LA actually does. They want to play tough ball. Like
Hmm.
they're, they seem like a team that has unified amongst themselves. Like they want to
Hmm.
play team ball. They are like playing for each other. Um, and that's not something that I see with like some of these other teams. So, uh, if they put it all together, front office coaching wise, um, I don't know if you listen to Kelsey Plum, if the rest would get it together, they could
Yeah,
have
she
a
don't like the way the refs playing, and she does. she does have to do a lot, and she's a smaller guard, so she's gonna take a lot more of a pounding. So that's I know that's hard on her body.
Yeah, for sure. Like she was, I wasn't saying that to like be like, oh, she's making things. The Kelsey Plum's like probably my favorite player in the league. And the complaint about the refs throughout the league has been something for somebody on every team has
Yeah,
complained about this point already in the season. So
I,
I don't
I
even think that complaint's reserved for her.
I do think for them though, I would like to see maybe one more playmaker, somebody that can, take some pressure off of Kelsey, which I do like Odyssey Sims. I I feel like maybe they should bring her off the bench. That way they have like when Kelsey's out the game, they can move her in and let her, do some
Bring
create
Army
plays with
in.
the ball. Yeah. That's what I think that I would have done with her because I do like Odyssey Sin. I think she's averaging like right around 10 last time I had checked. But I feel like if you keep her in the starting lineup, can you find somebody else to come off the bench and kind of like help create plays? That way it takes because Kelsey has a lot of pressure on her to make a lot of plays for them at times. So I
For
think
sure.
if they get one more playmaker, like I said, I like what they have on the wings. I like the post players they have. If they can get another playmaker, I think that's something that could really like help them, kind of like slide up in the standings. But that's my other hot take is which some people probably already say felt the same way I did anyway before I even said that about the Sparks making the playoffs. So I think
Yeah,
when I look at them, they have the talent to do so.
absolutely.
And
They have, we talk about some teams don't have any bench depth. They have the depth.
hmm
What you're talking about is building for the playoffs, like the rich getting richer. So
hmm
um, there are, I mean, free agents out there that are good, like bench depth still. Like Ari McDonald just got let go from the Fever
hmm
on a hardship contract. Like she played phenomenal for the Fever. Having somebody like that can just give like one of the starters a breather would be
Right.
great for LA.
Mhm.
So
And speaking of role players and people that we can pick up off the bench and kind of like help a lot of teams. This is something I wanted to mention to you about just to pick your brain as a player that's not in the league currently, but is super talented in Chennedy Carter. And for
mm,
whatever reason, averaging 17 and a half points last
sure,
season to not even being in the league now. I'm just like, how is she not on any team? Like, just because she's so ultra talented. Like for me last year, I felt like to me before they put her into the starting lineup, she would have been my sixth player of the year. But then they
sure, yeah.
moved her into the starting lineup. And I just want to pick your brain about is like her not being in the league. Why do you think she's not in the league? Do you feel like she's being blackballed?
Um, her not being in the league is purely based off the court. There is nothing on the court that would explain
hmm
why she is not in the WNBA. Um, Blackballed stuff. I don't know if she is. Yes, but I also think like she might have run out of teams.
mm
Um, like the margin for error is just we talk all the time about how there's not enough roster size room and there's not enough teams in the W for the talent that is had. So the margin for error is already so small in the WNBA, and the talent is so high that even somebody as talented as Chennedy Carter, I mean, if you're going through 3, 4 teams, not based on injury or trade, like a package deal or, you know, something else that's kind of more out of your control. If they're trading you solely based on, your attitude, then
hmm
by the time you run through your third or fourth team, like that's it.
Yeah,
Like gone through a
for
chunk of the league.
for me, it's just hard to see somebody that
I
talented just not being. It's hard for me to understand it because I remember, like I said, last year I flew down to Dallas and I was at the game, the very first home opener for Dallas when they played Chicago. And I was just like, who is this? And she was just a playmaker. And then when I watched her throughout the season, how she would come off the bench for Chicago and just constantly make plays with them, I was like, man, like I said, to me, she would have been the sixth player of the year before they moved her into the starting lineup. I just like she's
Yeah.
too great of a talent to
Yeah.
be in the league.
Yeah. When she came in the league, she played for the Dream. They drafted her, a fourth round pick. And she was offended that she went fourth, which, sometimes you love to see that,
Right.
like you love a player that, deserves, like, that thinks that they're number one. And, I mean, Sabrina Ionescu was number one that year. So, you know, tough
Not
sledding there.
exactly.
You know what I
Right.
mean?
Exactly.
Um, but like even the coach was like, she feels like, or I feel like she's misunderstood, or she feels like she's misunderstood. She's playing with a chip on her shoulder. Um, and really by most accounts, people were saying she was rookie of the year. Even like Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi, I remember them being together on like a podcast and being like, "This is my pick for rookie of the year," like early,
She played good. Yeah.
So she had the W support, right away. They recognized her talent, even like the greats, Sue Bird was still
Hmm.
playing, Diana Taurasi was still playing. Like, so as her peers, they were recognizing her talent on the court. And then she injured her ankle, and that kind of derailed rookie of the year.
I,
Um,
I was going not to cut you off, but I did see some things, looking at it, looking into it. I saw what she did. They were saying allegedly she had some locker room issues in Chicago, and then she was suspended. Like you mentioned, she played for Atlanta, but she got suspended because say she had almost like an altercation with Courtney Williams. I saw that. So
well,
they
it's not
kind
the
of.
first time. Like, she was traded from the Dream to the Sparks because of some locker room things.
Mhm.
And then when she was at this on the Sparks, she was like, well, technically she was waived by them because of
Yeah.
the same. And she was on a do not play list before she was waived for that. She didn't play the next season, and then she played in Chicago, and we have the same rumblings. So we
Yeah.
don't necessarily have the same evidence like we have in previous,
Mhm.
like when we saw it in Atlanta, we saw it on the Sparks. But yeah, now we are on our third team. Um, it's unfortunately more of the same.
Yeah. So if you were a GM though, would you take a chance on her?
Am I a GM with a top five team, or am I a GM
Any
of?
just any GM, would you take a chance on her? If you saw where your team was right now, and you was like, okay, she could really help us compete.
If
Would
I'm Chicago, I'm calling her back. I have nothing to lose. What are you going to do? Blow up my locker room? I might have to do that anyway.
you? Yeah.
you know, like if I'm New York, no, I'm not risking you coming into my locker room and creating a distraction.
But see,
Like
I feel like a team like a New York or Minnesota, those type of teams will be able to handle that because it's like, okay, if she comes in and she doesn't fit with us automatically, we just let her go, like off the cusp. But for
yeah.
me, if I'm a team like the Aces,
Sure, yeah, I can see the
I
aces.
I, I take a chance because
Yep.
right now where we are, it's a huge gap between them, the Aces, and where Minnesota and New York is. Like if I'm one of those top 4 or 5 teams, I take a chance because she's
They
to
don't have a
me.
bench anyway.
You don't have a bench. To me, and you might disagree, I feel like right now she's still a top 15 player in the league. Just from what I've seen and watching her play, I would put
Sure.
her as a top 15 player in the league. And I feel like she could flip the dynamic of you being a team that's like on the cusp of making the playoffs or just like really competing like Vegas. She would put them in the competition like competing with a New York and Minnesota. I don't know if I would feel like they would still beat those two teams, but she gives them a lot better chance. And I
Yeah.
like I said, even though she's already had an opportunity with Atlanta, I don't think they probably wouldn't bring her back. But she could help Atlanta really help them as well. Just another playmaker, a score,
Mhm.
and she'll defend as well. So I just look at those teams like, man, she's too great of a talent not to be in the league. But if I'm a GM, um, I would it to me it would have to be a team that's like really on the verge of competing for a championship. I don't know if I'm Connecticut. I don't know if I'll bring her in because what's the benefit of it? Like she's just gonna come out there and just light it up, but we're not going anywhere. So I wouldn't bring her in the team to a team like that. But if I'm a Vegas, if I'm the Aces or Atlanta, and I know I got a chance to really kind of compete with like a New York or Minnesota because the gap is too big right now, then I will go ahead and just take a chance and just lay it out straight to her. Like, look, this is what you're here for. If you can't abide by these rules, or if we get any kind of feeling that the players come back to us and say that it's not working with you, I gotta let you go. Just no hard feelings. Just go ahead and cut you. But but it's worth the chance right now because if not, we're gonna be looking at a Minnesota and New York finals again.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I could see that too. I just don't know if I was like a top GM if I would risk it. Um, but a
How
bubble
much do you?
team, like well, I mean, we're to go back to the Aces. I think, I mean, it also matters like who their coach is because their coach has to, I mean, player management is part of a coach's job, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a coach like Becky, like, sure,
Hmm.
I can see her being able to
Got to be
manage that.
strong will. Yeah. How much do you think the impact of her? Just curious, how much do you think the impact of her bumping Caitlin Clark kind of like hurt her as far as like getting back into the league as well? Do you think they played a big factor in it as well?
No, I really don't. I think people are so hyper fixated on Angel, especially with her being on the same team that like I think Chennedy Carter's damage was probably already done before she even got to Chicago. Chicago just gave her a chance because they did think that she was going to get them over the hump. And really, she did. Just not
Mhm.
enough. Like she couldn't do it all herself.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that because I feel like had she done that to anybody else, it wouldn't have been that big of an issue. But because of who Caitlin Clark is and what she's doing for the league and how much she has helped put the league on an even bigger map, something like
Hmm.
that. Not saying that that's like you said, it was a lot of other stuff that was done, but that right there probably could have been like to me like something that really didn't help her, reputation around the league.
I can see her not being in like her not ingratiating herself with the new fans that way.
Mhm, right.
But I don't know if like front office decisions, if it impacted that.
Hmm.
She definitely didn't make herself any new fans that way, unless they were
Oh
like,
no, not at all. Yeah, they
you know, um, but that's, I mean, she's always played with it. Shit. Like she doesn't care. Like
right.
she loves being in, kind of a, villain role, like she thrives in that. Like she's that kind of player. Like, yeah, it's almost like, I mean, the WNBA like embraced her when she got drafted, like rookie of the
Hmm.
year. Like, they talked her up. They loved her game, and she still, in her mind, needed to have that chip, to have that edge. That's just how. That's what works for her. So,
Hmm.
and there's plenty of other athletes that do the same thing. So this
Right.
isn't, you know,
Well, I'm rooting for her. I hope she can get another chance in the league.
she's. I don't know if you've seen videos, but she's down in Mexico living her best life. I don't know if she wants to come back.
Right. I just think about like the talent that's in the league, and I just feel like she's too great of a talent. That's the only thing that I hate to see but we see it about all the time in sports where athletes so have these God-given abilities and they don't really take advantage of it or they blow it because of off the court issue, off the field issues and different things like that. So we see it all the time. And it's like I
Yeah,
don't want that to be the
it
situation
it
with
sucks
her.
every time. It
Yep.
really is. Sure.
So
I
we
mean,
might
I don't know if we've seen the last of her. The WNBA does have two new teams that are getting added.
right.
So
But and see that's the thing. With new teams, do you want to bring into play? Because it's just the optics of all of that stuff. When you have a new
ratings.
team,
Chennedy
yes.
Carter will bring you ratings.
And at the end of the day, it's a business. Like, how do you sell that to another to your fan base saying, uh, we're bringing in Kennedy Carter? Because when you mention Kennedy Carter moving forward, they're gonna they're gonna tell her to Caitlin Clark is she's the one that I'm just telling you how I feel like it's gonna be like when they bring it in, it's like, oh, she's the one that bumped Caitlin Clark, and they're gonna show that video. And are you gonna be able to sell that to your fan base, especially with a new team that's coming into the league? Yeah, you want to win, but I'm just Caitlin Clark is a big deal. That's what I'm saying. She is a
Sure,
big
yeah.
deal, and you
That's
can
not how
see
you
it
spin it. Like
no matter
your
how
player,
you spin it.
your player. I mean, people are also homers for teams. Like your player versus this player is not a hard spin.
Hmm. And
You
you
just
see
you got to
the
commit to the bit if you're going to do that, though. You got to
yeah.
build around that.
And I just look at the ratings, the story about how the ratings failed just because. she hasn't been playing. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's also what happens when you put all the fever games on TV.
yeah, that's true.
You
Yeah,
know, so like you live and die by the golden goose.
it is. Yeah, it's gonna be tough. But hopefully she gets a chance to get back into the league. I'm rooting for her, man. I just want to see her do
Sure.
well. And like I like to see all of this great talent that's on display all around the league and get a chance for the fans to see it as well. But it's certain things, no matter where you go now, with certain things that you do is gonna follow your name and wherever you go, regardless of wherever she goes next, it just tends
Yeah,
to follow you.
I would almost like one of the new franchises for her. I mean, she wants to be the player. She doesn't want to share. It's just her personality. Like,
Right.
uh,
Because I think
sometimes
she can
everybody,
help. Wherever she goes, I know she'll help the team. Like no
for
matter
sure,
what team she goes to, because she's that good of a player to me. Um,
absolutely.
let's go ahead and take a quick break, and then we'll be right back. This is Cross the Line Sports. Welcome back to Cross the Line Sports. Now, Nicole, you just gave me some breaking news, and I'll let you go ahead and discuss it and let everybody hear it about a trade that just went down in the WNBA.
Sure, yeah. Well, we'll put a pin in it because I need to do some more research. But I just saw it in the 2 seconds we were gone.
Uh-huh.
Lee Yeru from the Storm.
Hmm.
Uh, a few weeks ago, she requested a trade. The trade was mostly due to player minutes. She didn't feel like she was playing enough. A lot of talk was that pressure coming from the Chinese national team that thought she would be playing more, and so they like her letting her be over here because of that. Um, and so now Dallas has sent 2026 second and a 2027 third to the Storm for Lee. So
Mm.
hopefully more minutes, more picks. Everybody's happy. We'll see.
Yeah. And I still I still don't see him making the playoffs.
Oh,
It's just too big of a hole.
I
How much do you feel like she's going to actually help the team though? Just from what you've seen her play.
mean, she's a good role player. I mean, they lost McCowan for a month playing
Right,
Eurobasket.
right.
So, I mean, that loss can't be understated. I think that she kind of fills that role.
Hmm.
So, will much actually change? I don't know. I don't think the problem with Dallas is necessarily the on the court individuals.
Right,
So, it is the management of them from the sideline.
right.
So,
For me, I was saying that I would have liked to see her go somewhere as a big, go to a team like Minnesota, just because that was the only thing I felt like they could potentially need is just another big. So I would have been happy to see her go there.
yeah,
Not
I
sure how
would.
many minutes she would have got out there in Minnesota, but just to get another big, I think that would have helped them. But hopefully she can go to
The
Dallas.
Aces should have called her too.
That oh yeah, definitely the Aces. Um, they 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 got some work to do, man. And
One day we'll be able to stop bragging about them, but not today.
yeah, I pull for them too. But man,
Me too.
they got their work cut out for them. So
For sure.
that's an interesting trade. We'll see how that works out for Dallas. Recently, it was some news about the WNBA scheduling, and Satu Sabali, she had an issue talking about in the post game presser about how Phoenix has been playing almost. I think she alluded to them playing about 9 games in 18 days, and with the scheduling and traveling, it can be a lot on athletes. But Nicole, how do you feel about the scheduling of the WNBA? Are they trying to pack too many games into a certain short amount of time? Like, how do you feel about WNBA scheduling?
Yeah, I mean they have increased the amount of games into the same time frame of the season. So I think it was Stewart maybe last week, earlier this week, that kind of spoke on that too. And she's like, we used to play 32, 36 games in the same time frame that we're now playing 44 games. It increased from 40 to 44. 44 is the cap that the CBA allows, to my
Mhm.
knowledge, with the amount of teams that are in the league. So they are adding two more. So you're going to potentially bump up the amount of games played in a season to 52 soon.
Mm,
So, yeah, like it is a conversation that will be had at the CBA table for sure.
yeah. I just think to me it's like when you sign up for this profession, I don't want to sound harsh. Like you gonna, I do think 9 games in 18 days that is a lot.
Sure.
But I feel like when you sign up for this profession, you're gonna have the best of the best. But um, this is what you sign up for. Um,
Yeah.
and it can't be taxing on your body. I do think if you're gonna have this that many games, open up some more roster spots for the players just in
Hmm.
case you somebody gets injured or maybe I hate to say load management because I don't like to see players load manage. I want you out there to play if you're healthy, but maybe if you're gonna add more games, open up more roster spots for players
Sure.
to get some of those reps and take some of the minutes off of those starters.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's what Brink has been campaigning for almost every
mhm,
time she touches the mic,
right,
this season. She's been like more roster spots, please.
right,
And she's saying that as somebody who hasn't even been able to touch the court yet this season,
mhm,
So yeah, a Cloud also floated out like we don't like playing isn't the problem. Like expand the season.
yeah. Honestly, to me, I don't know. Maybe the way I was just looking, I was like, it seemed like I guess because it's not as many teams, but I was like, man, it seemed like they don't play enough. Because like I was looking at it this week, it was like I think it was like a either it was a Monday or Tuesday where it was no games played at all, and then it was another night with
They
no
got a
games.
golf schedule, no games on Monday.
Yeah, it's like so to me, it's like man, they don't really have they don't play enough, but I guess because they're players and they're actually on the court, it's like yeah, it's a lot on us, to do the traveling and having these different games. And you know what, the same thing happened last year to Indiana. You remember at the beginning, it was like they played almost like seemed like almost every other day, and Caitlin Clark didn't really get a chance to get any kind of rest, and the team didn't get any chance to rest.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And they talked about that kind of at the break too. They're like you saw, especially with the teams last year that had like role having like large role having rookies. Like
Hmm.
how they looked before the break is very different than how they looked after the break, generally
Yeah,
speaking. Like the rest matters. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a big conversation at the CBA table. I don't think it would hurt. I mean, especially if you're adding teams, you're going to have to expand the season.
yeah, it's time. Yeah, you got to
You're
expand.
gonna have to. There's only so
So
many games that you can put on TV. Like, I don't know. You're costing yourself money if the players are injured too. Like, I mean, you
right.
were talking about losing Caitlin Clark and the ratings. And that's one player. Am I going to see I mean, I will, but generally speaking, for the general fan, am I going to see a New York team if Ionescu and Stewart aren't on the court? I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's not gonna move the needle for the just a
Yeah.
casual fan. Yeah.
And every like the aces, are people going to be like, nah, I'm good on that game if Asia's not playing? Probably. Like people,
Hmm.
just like they do in any sport, people want to go to see the stars.
Yep. You want to see the best players play. That was my issue with the NBA, covering the Hornets. I would go to the games a lot of times and then it's just like the best players are not playing. And so in my mind, I was like, you know what? This is gonna be a problem for the NBA because if I'm a fan spending my hard-earned money, I don't know if I want to go to these games because on a night-to-night basis, it's almost like you really have to wait until the day of the game to see who's going to play and who's not going to play because these guys, it's been times where I was out there at the game and guys would go through a full workout, sweat and everything, and then next thing you know, they still a scratch for the game. So it's like, how do you sell that to fans
Yeah.
if the best players are not out there? So for these women, man, I think they are the best. And what I do appreciate them though is if they're not injured, they're gonna be out there on the court.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that's kind of, I put like Cloud's little plug in there. She's like, we want to play the game, but like if you want your stars to play, you have to increase the season time frame.
Yeah, and I don't
She's
feel
like,
like
playing isn't the problem. We'll show up, but
yeah,
we don't want to risk injuring ourselves more than the game already, provides.
right, and I don't feel like they're in a position where they can load manage right now, especially when you're still trying to build the game. These ladies have to be out there pretty much every night if they're not hurt. So I think definitely expanding. Adding more roster spots to the team will definitely help them. But I think for me, hopefully they whatever they want, they get it in the CBA. Because if you don't, I don't feel like it's no room to complain next season if about, the scheduling being too much or whatever, because this is your opportunity to get whatever you want.
For sure.
You
Yeah.
need,
I
you
mean,
need to do it now.
like there's so many things that are going to be on that CBA. I would want to be at the table, but I would not want to be at the table at the
Right.
same time. There's going to be a lot of like they don't get played for playoffs right now. Like once that regular season pay ends, that's it. They're playing for pride.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy. I didn't
Yeah.
even know that.
Courtney Williams was on like a stream with Heidemann and that kind of came out. She was like, yeah, like once you hit the playoffs, like you're playing for pride. She's like, I got like a 3 grand bonus because I made it to the finals. That's it.
That's insane. Yeah, yeah, that's got to change.
Yeah. There are a lot of big things at that CBA table that
Yeah,
need to
and
be.
I understand in negotiations, it's gonna be some things that you're not probably not gonna get every single thing that you want, but being paid and playing, that's you got to get that. The scheduling. I think one of the things my issues with some of the scheduling is like the time slots of some of these games. Like today, you have New York and Indiana playing, but it's like at around 3 o'clock. Why not make that as like a prime time game? Like some of these games, they start them out at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Like why not move them to like different time slots? And then, like I was saying earlier, before we even started, with some of the games, you have some days where you don't have any games scheduled, but then the NBA final comes on and you still playing on that same day. Now, granted, I know sometimes you're gonna have to have games on the same day as like the NBA finals and stuff like that. But I feel like they could do a much better job of like putting games in prime time spots and just working around other things.
Yeah, I definitely agree that that needs to be a goal with scheduling, TV wise and in general, clearly, because we're talking about it. But part of me is like, well, all these TV deals are fairly new. I wonder if they're still operating on what they were given, which is not the way to live. Like we are past that now.
Right.
Um, so that definitely is something that needs to be changed. But like here and now, it's been in the last few years that they have expanded the amount of networks and TV slots and stuff that they have had. So maybe there's something to that. That's just kind of residual, you know,
Yeah.
living in the past a little that
Right.
hasn't fully,
So it's definitely gonna
evolved.
be interesting to see. But like I said, hopefully these young ladies can get what they want when it's time to
Sure.
negotiate. Because at this time, like however you want your schedule, I granted you won't be able to get everything that you want, but this is your chance to speak your piece. If you got to hold out just for a little bit longer, just to make sure you get the main things that you want, you just got to hold out because once you
Yeah,
start,
I mean, the W also needs to think about the schedule anyway. Like they've already made it known, even before like the Caitlin Clark era, that they aren't the biggest fan of players playing in these overseas teams, in season, off season, just in general.
Mhm.
Um, they have made moves that have kind of like said that the WNBA needs to be your priority.
Mhm.
And they've conceded things because so many big names are attached to those international teams. And the WNBA still wants them back, for whatever time they can have from them. Um, but it seems like expanding the season might help that a little and
Yeah.
giving them a playoffs, like that's
I,
really why a lot of these players go overseas because of the money.
right, that's true too. I do feel like though the time of the year that they do play, I do feel like this is a good spot for them though, just because like the basketball season is over with. There's no football right now.
Mhm.
The NBA is winding down, so like from May up until the season normally ends in what at the finals like October or something. That's a really good time of the year for
Sure.
them to be playing, but because like later on in the season it's like when football season starts, almost like the WNBA kind of gets lost in that shuffle again because down here in the South,
Yeah.
football is king. Like that's everything. And I remember it was one time, the last season, it was crazy. I think the Aces had a game on like that afternoon, and I was mentioning in the group chat, and everybody was like, "Man, we watching football right now. Everybody watching their favorite team." So it's like, yeah, I know you're gonna have to play games on Sundays, but like I said, it's hard to any sport is gonna be hard to compete with the NFL though, regardless. Like like the NFL is, that's like the biggest sport around in the country. So I think right where they are, like around the summertime, when there's really nothing going on with football, NBA is going winding down, and you have baseball, but they're in a good spot right here where they can use that to capitalize and grow the game. But as far as like, I think like the time slots, certain games, definitely something that they got to work on moving forward. But and hopefully these ladies get what they want when it's time to get to the table and negotiate.
Yeah, I definitely think like the viewers, like people talked about why the NBA wasn't taking off for so long, and it's because it wasn't being put in front of viewership. It wasn't
Hmm.
easily accessible, you
Right.
know, and we've kind of gotten over that hump in that respect. Like now it is fairly easily accessible. Well, League Pass is super cheap. It exists. Um, they're on regular, TV streaming now. Also, it's not something that you have to go to YouTube for,
Right.
and try to catch it in these little niche platforms. So in a way, it has evolved there, but yeah, it definitely still has a ways to go.
Yeah. Let's talk about some more accolades. Like I said, it's still early um in the season. Some teams are right around that 10 game mark right now. But a few more accolades that we can discuss. I know we made some predictions last week as far as like the finals and MVP on the season, but as of right now, who would you have as the most improved player?
Hmm. I can give a top three, but I would give it to Lexi Hall right now.
Like,
She helped
okay.
while CC was gone. She's been doing her thing in Indiana. It's been good for her.
Mm. You for me, I would say and you kind of when I was looking at that All-Star ballot and I was looking at her numbers, I was like, she got a strong case. I'm gonna go, I'll say Azurá Stevens because she's played very well for
Sure.
them,
Yeah.
despite the pieces that they're missing. And I was looking like last year she was averaging like right around 9 points, and this year she's up to like 14. So she's up in points and rebounds. So for me and what she's meant to that team. And like I said, you could give her consideration for, being an all-star. I'm not sure she's gonna make it because there's so much talent on there. But she's somebody I look at as somebody as a player that's really improved her game. And I think she made history a few days ago. Sometime this past week was I think she made her field goal percentage and made some threes. What I forgot what the record was, but it was something. She was the first player in history to do it, and she's been playing very well for the Sparks. So for me, I would say most improved right now. I give it to Azurá Stevens.
Yeah. I mean, she's been putting in that work. I would love to see a player like that get it as well. So
Mhm.
no rebuttals for
Yeah.
that here.
Defensive player. Uh, this one might be like a foregone conclusion, but I'll go ahead and interested to see what you would say about this defensive player of the year. Who would you have?
If I had to give three, it would be two from the same team. And so that makes it even more tough. Maybe Cloud right now.
Mm, okay. I would go the same person I felt like probably should have had it last year. I'm gonna go with Asia.
Sure. Yeah. That's two from the same team and the other was Asia. So
Yeah,
yeah, for
it's
sure.
just everything that she's doing on both ends of the court, and then just with blocks, leading with blocks, right there with right there in the mix with steals as well. I mean, she's meant everything to the team. Um, like I said, I was surprised she didn't win it last year. I mean, Nafisa, she well deserved as well, but man, what Asia's doing on the court, like I'm saying, she's just amazing. She doing it all. So for
Yeah.
me, if I had to pick a player for defensive player of the year, I'm gonna go with Asia because she, like I said, is what can't she do on the court?
Yeah. Well, there's probably a little politics involved in the awards last year.
Yeah, it's
You can't
almost
leave
like
people out in the cold.
yeah, like you said, we mentioned it last week is like the fatigue factor. It's like you get tired of seeing players win so many times. But like I'm of the mindset. If if I deserve an award, give me my award. I don't care about how many times I win in a row. If I'm the best and I've put in the work, just go ahead and give me my award until somebody like rightfully takes my seat at the table. But
Sure.
so for me, I'm gonna just go with Asia for defensive player of the year.
Sure.
Um, sixth player of the year. Who would you have for sixth player?
Probably Heidemann down there
Heidemann?
in Minnesota. Yeah.
Yeah, she's playing very
Um,
well. Yep. I went with Monique Billings for Golden State. I think she's been playing very well. And the times that I watch Golden State when she comes off, uh, she does give them a spark off the bench. And then I think with the style of play that they have, like this up and down pace, I think it's enough for her to, get her touches coming off the bench. Because I said, any team you gotta have that one player coming off the bench that's gonna give you something.
For sure.
So for me, I'm gonna say Monique Billings right now, but like Letitia Hyman, like she's been playing very well and she has been playing well for Minnesota for some time too. So
And also, like, yeah, I want to give a shout out to Wheeler over there in Seattle.
Seattle,
Like,
yeah.
she probably isn't going to be in the running, but she should be in a running for something.
Hmm.
She's been so good for them. And she's just been one of those players in the league that's bounced around a lot. But when she's been given the opportunity, she's really shown up for teams. So,
That's a team I gotta watch more because I was surprised, you know, with them losing Jewel Lord. I was like, man, maybe they, and then having some injuries before the season started, I was like, man, maybe they gonna take a step back. But for them to be where they are, I mean, and then so much going on with, I guess, what like the quote unquote player treatment and however all that stuff that's going on with the organization, for them to still be in the mix for the playoffs is really impressive. Um,
sure.
so shout out to them as well. Let's move to the All-Star voting. Um, I did my voting, and it was very really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll go ahead my list was, man, this was tough. But do you want me to go first, or do you want?
Now go ahead.
Okay,
You got
so I went back and did my voting, and then before I submitted my vote, I went back and looked again, and I made a change. So for the front court.
you're supposed to change your first answer. That's how you feel.
I didn't have, it was
They
so
taught you
tough.
nothing.
It was so tough. So my front court, these were some no-brainers. Nafisa,
Yep.
Collier, and then I had Asia, I
Okay.
had Satu, I
Yep.
had I had Brianna Stewart,
Okay.
I put Hamby on there,
Mhm.
and I put Kiki on there. Kiki Erafian. I might be saying it wrong.
We have five and
Erafian.
six are the same.
I almost put Neka Agumake on there.
That's who I put out there.
But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give it to the rookie because I think what she's been doing on that team and where they are, it's not like they're like way behind and they're still in the mix with playoffs. I put Kiki on there. So
Yeah.
that,
So I had Fee, Wilson, Satu, Neka, Kiki, and Stewie for my front court.
so you didn't have Hamby on there.
No, I love Hamby, but no,
Yeah, I put Hamby on there.
I'm not mad at the pick at all. I am a fan.
Yeah, Hamby, she's been balling, so I put her on there. So,
Yeah.
so we had everybody except for so you did have Kiki on there. Oh, so it was really Hamby. You had Mecca NECA
Yeah.
over Hamby.
Correct.
Okay. So we pretty much had the same thing. Moving to the guards, this was tough.
Yeah.
Um, so initially, all right, so initially I had Alicia Gray, Kelsey
Okay.
Plum, Jackie Young, and Caitlin Clark. That's what I
Okay.
initially had. But before I submitted my vote, I went Alicia Gray, Jackie Young, Caitlin Clark, and then I took Kelsey off and put Ryan Howard on there.
Mm-mm-mm.
That's what I and Kelsey's been balling too, but
Kelsey's on my list.
I'm not mad at it at all. I
So
just
I had, go ahead.
to me, I feel like I got to reward winning too. So that's why I
Sure.
took Kelsey off because I got to reward winning. And right now, Atlanta is what third in the standings, and Alicia and Ryan Howard they both been balling. So I was like, how can I leave her off the list with what both of them are doing? And then like I said, I was at the
Yeah.
game when they played the Sparks and they did a number on them. And Kelsey, it was kind of hard for her to, when they put the bigger guards on her, she had a harder time. Like, yeah, she still scored, but it took a toll on her. Like they wore her down throughout the game.
Yeah.
So with what they're doing, being third in the standings, I had to put Alicia and Ryan Howard on there.
Okay. I mean, there are more deserving people than there are spots, so I'm not mad at
Right.
it. But I had Plum, Sykes, Alicia
Yeah, it
Gray,
was so
and
yeah.
Caitlin Clark. Sykes is playing like she's having her best season in like her eighth year.
So Plum, Sykes, Gray, and who else?
Plum, Sykes, Alicia Gray, and Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark, yeah. Of course, it was like Caitlin was gonna be a no-brainer though. I just feel like regardless, she was gonna get on there already. But so this is now correct me if I'm wrong. So this is the what first one, two, three, five, six, first 10. So it'll be another 10 is this just for the starters right here?
Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess they'll do like another one for the reserve. So some of the ladies that we didn't vote for still will end up
It's
making
tough.
all.
I would encourage anybody to just go on there, even if you don't want to vote for whatever reason. Just go on there and look at that freaking list, man.
I'm telling you, it
It's
was
like you get to 2025 before you start even thinking about if people deserve to be on that list.
yeah.
And there's only like 10 spot or six, yeah, 10 spots in general, six for front court, four for guards.
And I was looking at Skylar Diggins. Skylar been balling.
For sure, yeah.
So I was like, man, this is gonna be hard to like I said, I just my first before I even cast my first ballot, I had to go back and make a change. But it was I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to leave Kelsey off of it though. Like, how do you leave?
Sure.
But to
But
me,
it would be hard to leave Ryan off that too. You
that's
know,
what I'm
like
saying. Yeah, to me, I just felt like you can put up great numbers, but at some point you still have to reward winning. And with them being where they are, and somebody might be like, "Well, you left Nneka Ogwumike off, but you put Kiki on there." But they're
sure, yeah.
still close to the mix. But I mean, they're
Yeah. I
still in
mean,
the mix.
I get it.
But where
It's
but
the
where
same conversation we were having with MVP last week, I think. Like where I'm like, if you take Asia off the aces, what are they? And if you take Fee off the links, what are they? And you're like, well, like to me, winning matters, you know? So
does, yeah. So I was like, man, it was hard, and I wanted to put Kelsey on there so bad, but then I was like, you know what? What Atlanta is doing, and those two are a big reason why Atlanta is winning like they are. And then Ryan Howard, she just went off again. Was it last night? She
yeah,
tied
yeah.
record for most threes or something. I was like,
Yeah,
man,
it was tied at a certain point with Chicago. And I'm like, Atlanta, don't you embarrass me again.
exactly.
I talked so well, so highly of you last week, and you're out
Right,
here losing to Chicago.
right. But they held it down though. They came through in the clutch. So I don't think we can vote again today. I think it
Yeah,
told me
it's
some.
every day you can vote. But I think votes count double today. So there's that.
Mm, man, and just looking at it though, I like what I put on. I like the front court. I feel bad for leaving Kelsey off now though, but it was just I don't know.
It's, and you know, you could have a whole different 10 players and they would probably be all deserving too. Like it's the parity and the talent level in this league is wild.
It's really yeah. You really have to watch these ladies because they are really talented. I was going. This was something else I wanted to ask you as well about most improved. Would you consider Kelsey in the running for most improved? Because I know now she's in a spot where she's pretty much like not in the shadows of a Asia Wilson. Like she's pretty much like the best player on the team. Most would say. Would you consider her as somebody that can be up for running up for player of the year? Because she is up in scoring. Would you
Yeah.
consider her being in the running for most improved?
To me, she has tougher sledding to get there. Like, could she get there? Yeah. I think it's tougher for like these players that are already good players to be like most improved player to me has been teams or players that were kind of like bench or lesser role players. And
Hmm.
then maybe something happens on the team that they stayed on or they go to a new team and there is a pretty significant change. Like we saw that with Dejanay last year, you know?
Right, right, right.
And so I think it's tougher for a player that is already, I mean, you're talking about a championship caliber player
Hmm.
that moving into a team that is now kind of like her team and having to make the margin even wider. I think that's a tougher sell
Hmm.
than just how like historically I've seen them look at this award.
Right.
I
Yeah. I
think
was
it's
just
gonna have to. I think that like we're doing this now, you know, a few weeks into the season, and I think it's just going to take longer to make a case for something like that.
right.
Maybe.
I was just curious just because of she has more responsibility now than what she
Oh,
did with the Aces.
yeah,
You
for sure.
consider her being in the running, and I guess maybe
Good.
seeing where they fall in the standings. Like I can't remember exactly where the Sparks were. I know they didn't make the playoffs last year, but if they significantly improve in the standings as far as from last year to this year, would you consider her as the most improved? Because I think that'll help as well. Like depending on
Sure.
if they vastly improve their work, I think for me, I it would probably be between her. Like I said, it'd probably be between her and Azure. Let's see where if they make the playoffs. Um, I'm I might I don't know. It's because I really like the way Azure is playing, but you
Yeah.
can also say because since Kelsey wasn't there last year and she's there now, they went from not making the playoffs to getting in. I think she could get consideration for most
Yeah.
improved.
Sure. I mean, that's kind of like in the same vein of like Sykes. Sykes is having her best season ever in her, I think, eighth year, something
Oh,
like
that
that.
is tough too. Yeah, yeah.
You know, so it's the same type of like, is the league gonna look at that the same as they were like a whole in what she's doing in a new team or a Heidemann, you know, or something like that, or even like Alicia Gray is
Mhm.
probably in that most improved player conversation right now.
But you know what? It's what's interesting though, just being around the team and just like covering Kelsey Plum. I don't even know if that's the type of award that she would really want. It's like being most improved just because of how competitive she is.
She's a championship. She's not really another sport. It's like championship
Exactly.
of a
Yeah.
sport.
Exactly. So I was like, even if she got the award, she would have. I think she would appreciate it, but it's not something that she would really strive for, just because of who's the type of player that she is and what she represents on the court. I'm not even sure if that's something that, like she would, you know, would really want.
Yeah, we'll see when the dust settles, but I also would look at a couple players on like the Valkyrie for that
Hmm.
award. You know, Burton, Thornton, you know, people that were role players and now they're the players for their team, really.
Yep. Absolutely. So it's like I said, it's very early. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens with a lot of these awards. Before we get out of here, let's go ahead and we got a few minutes left. Let's go ahead and make some game picks this week. There's three games coming on today. First one, we got Sparks and the Lynx. Who would you like for that game?
Links.
Lynx. Yeah, me too. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Lynx as
I
well.
know we just talked the sparks up, but the Lakes are still.
Yeah. I wanted this. I wanted to go with the underdog, but nah, they just and then Minnesota losing their first game to Seattle. I'm
Yeah, they're playing a little different probably now.
yeah, I'm gonna go with the Lynx as well. They get back in the win column. Next game we have Liberty and the Fever.
I want to be controversial here, but I'm not. I'm just going with the Liberty.
Yeah, same here. So I
Like
think it's
Fever do have CC and Cunningham back. Like it will be more of, or should be more of a game.
might be more competitive, but
Tell you what, that Liberty start with that starting slow stuff again. It'll be interesting.
yeah.
It could get interesting.
Plus, it'd be interesting to see how much they play Caitlin today too. Just coming
Yeah.
back from the injury.
Mhm.
So this is a tough game. This is tough for this to be your first game back anyway. So uh I can't even remember where they playing. Are they in Indiana or is it in New York? I can't even remember.
I think it's in Indiana.
It's in Indiana. Well, I'm still
So
going with New York on that game though. I just think it's
I
uh,
could be wrong. I'm like thinking about it now. I could be wrong.
I'm a roll with the Liberty in this game. Man, I really wanted to pick Indiana, but had Caitlin been out there playing a lot more, I probably would have leaned that way, but with the chemistry New York has, I'm gonna still stick with the Liberty to win that game. And then the last game we have the the Storm and the Valkyries. Who would you like for that game?
The Storm. The Valkyries are missing a lot of players to Eurobasket right now.
Yeah. I would have felt a lot better, like you said, if they had their players. And like you said,
Yeah,
you know, I'm big on Janelle Salon. So
yeah. She's gone. She's one of those players. So
yeah,
Van Loo's gone for them. Like
that,
they're literally missing players right now, I think,
yeah, that's
for
gonna hurt.
Eurobasket.
That's tough to be losing some of your better players on the team. So yeah, we pretty much got all the same picks of the Lynx, Liberty, and the Storm. Um, and we'll see. Well, you know what? We'll circle back around next week and just see how our picks
Yeah.
came out.
They're gonna one of them at least is gonna embarrass us like Atlanta did last week.
Yeah, man. I was like, man, Atlanta let us down last week. We talked them up, and then next thing you know, they just let us down. So it's
They
gonna be,
dropped one for Connecticut.
yep. And I feel like if it is a game on here, it'll probably, man. But you know what? I feel like pretty confident in these teams. If it's any of them that could lose, just looking at it, man,
I mean, the Fever, perceivably, if the Liberty get out there and they start slow and somebody gets hot on the Fever, could that be a real interesting game? Sure.
yeah, it could be interesting. Then yeah, Valkyries, I can't pick them. It's just hard to pick them right now. I'm missing way too many
It's
players.
Yeah, that I would say would be more of a game, more of a toss up for sure if they
Yeah.
had their core players there. But
Prob
I
prob
mean, they still have Thornton, they still have Burton. Um, it's
yeah,
wild the players that stayed that didn't go to Eurobasket, or we'd be
yeah,
having a different conversation because like the whole French team is on on
yeah.
Seattle. You know, like,
Man, that's gonna be tough. But we'll see how everything turns out next week. Like I said, we'll keep track of this. But Nicole, thank you again. As we get ready to round out, I had really enjoyed this conversation. It was really fun. You know, like I said, I always enjoy picking your brain and letting you educate me on some certain things as well. Because I really like to learn the game. Like I said, this is my second year covering it, so to be able to pick your brain and let you break down a lot of the stuff, I really appreciate you taking the time to do it.
yeah,
Um,
thanks for having me.
but before we get out of here again, I know you say you're not on Instagram, but can you tell everybody how they can follow you on social media?
Yeah, Nicole Oltz, NiChole OLTZ on Facebook. That's pretty much where I am. That is the best place to find me. If you want pictures from like 5 years ago, you can go to my Instagram, Nicole the Nomad.
Nicole, I appreciate you again. We got to wrap it up. But like I said, we'll be back again next week and give you some more rundown on everything in the WNBA. So hopefully everybody enjoys this episode of the Cross the Line Sports. Till next time, keep chasing your dreams. Thank you for listening.